Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a 1957 movie, and this is called Battle Hymn, and it's starring Rock Hudson and directed by Douglas Sirk. And Rock Hudson is playing an officer in the Air Force during World War II. He is flying over Germany. One of the bombs that is meant to have been dropped on a industrial target doesn't disengage properly, and as he works to get it to drop, it finally does. And as it turns out later, this errant bomb drops on an orphanage in which 37 children were killed. So we see this in the opening scenes, and then we see him as a preacher, but he is haunted by what has happened to him, or what he has done in World War II, and he decides to go back to war, and as this is now the Korean War era, and he is sent to Korea as a training officer to train the Republic of Korea's fledgling Air Force. Now I got to say, this is not top tier Rock Hudson, Douglas Sirk. They made several movies together, maybe eight or nine, and Sirk very much, I think, was one of the major influences on Rock Hudson's development as an actor, helping to develop his screen persona. But this isn't really one of the top tier movies, which are probably like Written on the Wind, All That Heaven Allows, The Tarnished Angels, another flying movie. And Sirk was very much attracted to flying. He was a pilot himself. Dean Hess. This is based on a autobiography by Dean Hess, memoir of his experiences. So, and Hess took Sirk before the movie was filmed. He took him to Korea and South Korea, and he showed him some of the real life locations. They actually filmed these exteriors to Korea in Nogales, Arizona. This film's kind of interesting in the problems of doing a biopic of somebody who's alive, because you're hesitant to show him in any poor light. And Hess himself was involved in the making of the film. He was on the set. And some of the veracity of Hess's autobiography had already come into question. He was fudging around a little bit with the facts of the matter. But the basic idea of the story, he was responsible for these children's death in World War II, and then during his duty in Korea, he is given, and the movie implies by God, to atone for that sin, in that he becomes responsible for hundreds of Korean orphans that are caught in the maelstrom of war, and striving to save their lives. This was true, and but Sirk thought that Rock Hudson was miscast in this movie. He's really great in it. I mean, Hudson really had developed into a terrific dramatic actor, and he would soon show his comedic talents as well. And I think he's somewhat underrated as a dramatic actor, and even though he's miscast, and Sirk thought he was miscast because he was a very grounded type character. He wasn't. He didn't do conflicted very well, as Sirk felt Robert Stack was really good at doing. So Sirk wanted to add, as part of his back home, as part of his travails, that he would take to drink, because that would give him some impetus to get back and to reclaim his own life, which we don't have here. So it's and Dean Hess objected to that element that Sirk wanted to add into the screenplay, into the character. But it would have added some justification for going back into war, because it's a very tenuous moment in the film where he tells his wife, "I'm going to go back in the Korean War. I'm going to go back to war." Why would you want to do that? It doesn't really have a useful or a very convincing justification for wanting to do this, going back into war again. And then when he's in Korea, we have some very delightful character actors around. We have Dan Duryea, Don DeFore, Alan Hale Jr., Skipper from Gilligan's Island. They're all very good, and we get some Korean performances too. Philip Ahn and Richard Liu, very identifiable, given very dignified kind of roles. And we also have James Edwards. Now, he was a black actor. His career started about the same time as Sidney Poitier. He did not become a big star like Sidney Poitier, but boy, he had some really significant roles in Home with the Brave, The Steel Helmet, The Setup, and he's representing here in Battle Hymn the integration of the Air Force. I think the commentary says he was the first black actor to be shown as an officer who flew in the American Air Force. And we have Anna Kashfi, and she plays the love interest. Well, it's not a love interest. She's in love with Rock Hudson. There is no romance, and because it's clear that Rock Hudson is totally devoted to his wife, and she's in charge of this orphanage that Rock Hudson, this sort of makeshift orphanage that Rock Hudson begins to gather all these children that are refugees and have no parents, have no guardians. Anna Kashfi is clearly not Korean. She's playing Korean. One thing that's interesting about her in real life, she was born in India, and she claimed to be of Indian descent, but when she became famous, it was let out that she was actually Welsh, and her parents were still alive and living in Wales, and they definitely said there's no truth in this story that she's of Indian parentage. She was married to Marlon Brando. She is the mother of Christian Brando. And it's also been said, don't know if it's true, that when Brando found out that she was dishonest about this Indian heritage, he divorced her. Another aspect of the film that's interesting is the orphans that are in the movie. 25 of them were actually orphans that were were the orphans that Dean Hess saved, helped to save, and they were flown to Arizona for this, and there was a great deal of publicity about it at the time. And another interesting I find interesting, at least, is Russell Meddy's cinematography. He filmed almost all of Sirk's films at Universal, and he had a very special style, very shadowy interiors, and he really knew how to use the CinemaScope screen. This is a movie made in CinemaScope. So, and I also have to admit that when I was a kid, I loved this movie. This movie really, it's a movie that can said to be heartwarming, I think is the term I would use for Battle Hymn. Okay, that'll wrap this video up. Thanks again for everybody who managed to listen to me this far. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.